Anyway, so we were in Mantua, and my wife says, we should go to Venice now that we're here in northern Italy, and that's where they keep it. And I said, well, okay, we'll go to Venice. So we went to Venice, and the first thing you notice when you get to Venice is drainage problem. And then it looks like it probably did 500 years ago, with the exception of the power boats. And there's all these very tall buildings that are very, very close together. There are named streets there that you have to turn sideways to go down, or your shoulders will hit the bricks on either side. The buildings are buttressed together so they don't collapse into the street. And then you walk into the piazzas, the squares there, and every single square has a wellhead in it that's about 8 feet tall, made out of brick and concrete with a big iron sort of hatch on the top of it. Because Venice was on a salt marsh. The Huns and the Lombards swept into northern Italy in the Middle Ages and chased the Italians out into this salt marsh where they went neener, 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 and the Huns said, we don't want to go out there. And they said, oh, well, then that's where we'll build our city. And so that's how Venice got there. But if they don't have the wellheads really tall, then when the city floods every winter, because there's not enough Americans to keep the salt water out, like there is in the summer, then the salt water will get into the fresh water. And as soon as you look at these giant wellheads with this iron hatch on it, you go, well, something creepy is going to come out of there. And that's how this book started. I thought, oh, this is a perfect setting for a monster story, all this murky water and these narrow lanes and excuse me, Ebola, it'll be fun. And I started looking at what horror stories had been told in Venice before. And the first thing that came to mind was The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, wherein a Venetian nobleman, you know, if you're filming me with an iPad, it looks like you're reading. I'm just saying. That's okay, you can. I just wanted to if I keep looking at you and then you're seeing me on the screen and I'm like, is he getting ahead? Does he know what I'm going to say already because he's reading my notes? And it just encourages me to make shit up that you can't possibly have there. But go ahead, you know, live the dream. What was I talking about? Never mind, I know. So anyway, Poe, yeah. So we're in The Cask of Amontillado. A Venetian nobleman walls a guy dressed like a fool, a smartass named Fortunato, up in his cellar in Venice. And I thought, well, I have a fool who's a smartass and who's not doing anything. I'll start there. And then I started looking at the Shakespeare plays that were set in Venice, which are Othello and Merchant of Venice, which was actually the easier one of the two to find because it's right there in the title. Othello being about a North African general, a Moor, who earns the title of the general of all the military of Venice. And much to the chagrin of the empowered patrician senators who don't think he deserves it because he was born in Kenya, everybody knows Othello was born in Hawaii. So I told that story in Atlanta, and no one laughed. No one. I still don't know, are they too stupid? Oh wait, we're recording this. I made that up. Those people in Atlanta are lovely. It was just that one group that was stupid. Anyway, so they start plotting against Othello. And then the Merchant of Venice is about this Jewish moneylender who is sort of abused by a merchant of Venice and loans him money. And everybody's sort of down on him because he's charging rent. Well, at the time, that was the only way for you to make a living if you were a Jewish person, because you weren't allowed to own property. And Shylock even says in The Merchant of Venice, you do not allow me to take rents. What had happened in the rest of Europe is the Jews had been driven out in the Middle Ages, which is where I set the play, out of England and France and what is now Germany. And at least the Italians let them live there. They just put them on their own island, which was this crescent island across from St. Mark's Square called the Giudecca, which is an amazing coincidence that you would have all the Jews end up in that one place. But so what the three plays had in common were these outsiders. This Jewish money-lenderer, with clearly too many suffixes, and this North African general, and this little British fool who said, oh, you're a republic, and everybody is the same under the law? Well, what about the North African general and the Jewish moneylender? And they said, let's wall him up in a cellar. Because the Venetians had to have everybody equal under the law. They didn't have any land. The rest of Europe was working under feudalism, and so you had a castle and you had a fiefdom, and all your serfs worked your land, and you charged rents and taxes, and you made money. Venice doesn't have any land, so they have to work by trade. And the only way that France and Spain or England or anybody is going to trust you is if they know they can be treated equal under the law. And so while the rest of Europe is working under feudalism, Venice actually had a republic from 400 AD until 1800 when Napoleon conquered them. And it's the fool's part in this story that he says, no, you guys aren't treating everybody equal under the law, and makes kind of a big deal out of it. So that's how the Shakespeare part came into it.